Hello, Wonderhussy here, camping in the mountains in the middle of Utah. That's right. Most people, when you think of Utah, and certainly when I think of Utah, I think of that dramatic red sandstone, you know, those formations in like Bryce Canyon, Cedar Breaks, or the magnificent formations in Zion. Well, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of beautiful forests in Utah as well, up at elevation. And I'm in a range called I think it's called the Tushar, Tushar, Tushar Mountains. I came up here just because I wanted a place to camp that wasn't 157 degrees. I mean, down below on the valley floor, I was in Cedar City, and it was, oh gosh, it was in the 90s. It was just, well, it was insufferable. So I got a hot tip from a buddy in Cedar City, and he told me about this campsite that's up at, well, over 10,000 feet. That's right, I drove all the way up that narrow, winding gravel road, and it put me out in this beautiful kind of little, well, dell, I guess you would call it. Anyway, you can see it's just a beautiful campsite because of all the gorgeous wildflowers that are blooming all over this beautiful grassy dell. We got yellow ones, we got purple ones, we got white ones, and then, because it's me, there's also something that I thought was even more interesting than beautiful wildflowers, and that is this collapsed cabin that happens to be right here in this campsite. I don't know, I guess like maybe a cabin used to stand right here, this beautiful little dell, all the way at the top of this lonely mountain road. Well, that might have been somebody's homestead back in the day. Anyway, you can see by looking at the ruins of this old cabin that, well, there's really nothing left. It was probably a really cute, cozy little house back in its day, but gosh, there is just nothing here to tell us anything about who lived here or what they were doing up here. But I was looking around on Google Maps, and also my friend in Cedar City told me there's some mining ruins not too far from here. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess that whoever was living here was probably prospecting or running a little mine or mill or something like that, because these mountains are apparently full of minerals. Oh my goodness. This mine that I saw that I'm about to get in my car and drive to, I think it's called the Silver King Mine. And so I'm gonna go ahead and guess they were mining silver. Doesn't look like there was a whole lot of structures left up there, but well, it's bound to be a beautiful drive through the Tushar Mountains either way, so I figured, why not go check it out? Okay, wow. I don't think I've ever been to an old abandoned mine site with a bathroom. If that's not Utah, I don't know what is. Let me tell you something. If you've never been to Utah, well, let me just say that Utahns, and I guess probably Mormons, because a lot of Mormons here, are huge into history. And apparently they're huge into preserving historical sites. So much so that they don't want people just pooping and a peeing all willy-nilly all over this mine site. They put up a bathroom. Anyway, like the sign says, we're here at the Silver King Mine, which dates from 1894. And I was actually just reading up on this place, and surprise, it wasn't a silver mine, it was a gold mine. Now, why would you call a gold mine the Silver King? I have no idea. But, well, according to what I read online, presumably the Spaniards had been prospecting and mining in these mountains for probably centuries. I mean, the old Spanish trail does run fairly close by here, down at the base of the mountains. So it stands to reason that the greedy Spaniards would have dipped their fingers into these juicy pies all over these mountains at some point in history. But the historical buildings that we're about to go check out are all here from the 1894 version of the Silver King, which is when a guy by the name of Brigham Daniel Darger, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Darger, Brigham, shocker of a first name. He was a Mormon, that's right. Well, he's the guy who came up here and I guess established this gold mine. And not only is there a bathroom here, there's also a little walking trail. Look at this. This is like one of the nicest little old abandoned mine sites I've ever explored. I mean, how often do I get to walk down a cool old staircase made of old railroad ties with a really cool chain handrail to hold on to, and in a forest nonetheless. I mean, most of the time when I'm exploring these abandoned mines, I'm in some baking, searing, unforgiving desert landscape, and well, there's no shade to speak of, let alone any staircases and handrails. But again, welcome to Utah, where folks like exploring history the comfortable way. Wow, look at this cool old historic cabin. This is wild. I mean, it's wild that it's so well preserved, and it's wild that it's just sitting here where anybody can come explore it. So I think this is where Brigham Daniel Darger, I think, well, the stuff I read called him Brig. I guess that's what he went by for short. So we'll call him Brig. This is where Brig and his, oh, I think he had a partner in the diggings here. This is where they lived. And then later on, when Brig took a bride, that's right, even a man named Brigham needs a wife. Well, apparently he married a gal who, I think she was like 14 years younger than him. And I think she might have been engaged to another miner in some little town nearby. And her name was Pansy. So Brig and Pansy lived in this cabin. This was their, well, this was their home. It's a 2-story cabin. And according to what I read online, Brig and Pansy lived upstairs. And then downstairs was like kind of like a miner's bunkhouse, I guess, for the guys that were working the gold mine. And I think it was just kind of like a loft situation. So they really didn't have that much privacy. Although supposedly there's an outside staircase that went up to the loft. So they at least had their own private entrance. I don't know. Maybe there was a staircase back here. But it looks like they removed it because you can see there's a warning sign up there. Danger, landing not stable, do not enter. Well, that's a bummer. I thought I'd be able to get inside this cabin, but I'll bet you anything it's locked up tighter than a you-know-what. And speaking of you-know-whats, they're locked up tighter here in Utah than they are anywhere. Oh, yeah, look. It says, keep door closed. Thanks. Well, I have no choice. I can't even get in. This is... Well, maybe I could at least peek through the door if I open this. Golly. It's harder to get into this cabin than it is to get into a God-fearing Mormon gal's undergarments. Oh, golly. Yeah, look, you can't even... Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, look. Yaha! Success. Sort of. I mean, I'm still trapped behind the bars, but oh my God, there's some really cool stuff in here. Okay, I'll just put my phone through the bars so you can see. Oh, there's a staircase inside that they could have gotten up to the loft in, but look at that creepy old baby carriage. Isn't that wild? That thing's got to be super old. And then these old trunks, a bunch of them. Wow, and all this stuff is just sitting in here. Oh, wow, look at that old sewing machine. They have this place done up just like it probably was when Pansy Darger lived here. And gosh, who knows what all happened in this, on that bed with a rope. Oh my God, oh gosh. I just saw something through the, oh, it's so frustrating. I'm not that big. I wonder if I could fit through these bars. So close. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to get in as much as I want to because there's some really interesting stuff on the other side of this door. You know, what is that? Oh, that's another really fancy old bed frame. And it's frustrating because I can't get my arm far enough around the door to see what's over there. I just get these tantalizing glimpses through the crack there. That's what he said. Oh, well, okay, you win, Utah. Even though I'm salty as all get out that I can't get into this cabin, I'm still gonna latch it back up just the way I found it. I'm gonna put all this shoelace back the way it was. No animals or nosy YouTubers can get in. Very frustrating though. Well, I don't even think we can see in these windows because the screens will mess up the view. Sort of, but whatever. It's a sewing machine. We just saw it. Okay, well, for all its bathroom and fancy staircase and fancy handrail, I'd still take exploring one of these Wild West Death Valley mines over this because, well, at least in the mines that I go to, you can go inside and poke around. I did notice this window when we first got here. It's probably closed from the inside, though. Oh, it's not. Shocker. All right, well, at least I can see what we were missing behind that door. Yeah, it just looks like a bed and a chair. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. It just would have been fun to go in there and poke around, see what's all the implements are on that table there. You know, sit there and imagine what life would have been like for Pansy Darger. Well, even without going inside there, I think I have a pretty good idea of what life was like for Pansy Darger. I think they ended up being married for like 35 years, and they had something like 10 kids, you know, good Mormon family. So I'm gonna guess life was probably pretty rough. I think she met him they got married in 1896. So living in Utah, in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, Utah, in 1896, couldn't have been easy. I mean, all those 10 childbirths, she probably just had to do right here. Okay, up here we got a couple things. We got a historical informational sign, and it looks like there might be a trail register here. Let's see. I guess that's D for Darger. Look how cool. I love those, the heads on these nails. I'm going to get a bunch of these to use in my Death Valley submarine because they look like rivets. Let's see who was here and when they were last here. Here. July 20th. Oh, that's today. Well, I better sign my name. That's wild that those people were here the same day as me. It seems so desolate and deserted up here, and I didn't see anybody all night where I was camping, but oh, it's just the way I like it. Okay, I'm just gonna write my name. Beautiful place, because it is beautiful. All right, well, I guess I could kind of flip through and see who's been here over the years, but I don't know. We're just a bunch of Boy Scouts and Mormons, you know? All right, well, let's go see what this historical sign says. Oh, this will give us some info. I think there's a picture right here. Look at that. Brig and Pansy Darger, owners of the Silver King Mine. See, I told you. Oh, here's their wedding photograph. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? Look at her. Look at him. Oh my God. He's not a bad looking guy, and I guess she's a good looking gal under all them puff sleeves. And you know what's funny? There's gals in some parts of Utah that still dress like this to this day. If you've ever been to Colorado City and seen them sister wives, they were pretty much the same getup. Almost kind of like the same hairstyle too. Anyway, so it's got a picture of them. It's got a picture of the cabin. Oh, here it says Brig and Pansy lived downstairs and 6 to 10 hired men lived upstairs. Okay, I had it backwards. Forget I said anything. After they started a family, they purchased a small farm in Joseph, 16 miles away. I see, where she stayed to raise the family, tend the livestock, gardens, and peach orchards. So, okay, they basically only lived up here for the honeymoon period before she got knocked up. But, God, I mean, yes, it does seem like a very romantic, rustic place for a honeymoon period, but not with 6 to 10 miners living upstairs. Anyway, it just goes on, tells a little bit about the history of the Silver King mine. It was located and claimed as the Silver King in 1894, full operation until 1896. Ooh, in 1897, Brig struck a high-grade vein. However, dynamite caused a collapse of the mountain into the mine, and Brig's search was in vain. Oh, and that was the same year that he married her. Look, her full name was Pansy Permelia Brown. What a name. When the deep snow melted, they moved here to their new home at 10,000 feet on Gold Mountain. They were married for 35 years and had 10 children. Oh, no, but in 1905, they lost a 4-year-old daughter and a 14-month-old boy to diphtheria. Terrible. Then in 1916, she lost another baby shortly after his birth. And then within just a few years, tragedy would claim 2 of their older sons who were killed in automobile accidents. Golly, so even though they had 10 kids, they lost 1, 2, 3. They lost half of them. Oh, that's life was rough back then. Automobile. Oh. You see, they lived in that interesting time that sort of straddled. It was like a bridge between the old days and the new days. And that's kind of evidenced by the next thing on the timeline. Brig died in Los Angeles in 1932, where he'd gone with his family for his health. Now, why would you go to Los Angeles for your health? You know what I mean? Like, that's the last place I would go for my health. Anyway, then it just goes on to say this other guy ended up buying the mine, and I guess he maintained it for many years. Pansy died in 1964, so she had a nice long life. And then the last mining occurred here in the 1980s, it says. And then there's a map here. I guess apparently there's this little walking trail we can do, and it'll take us around to see. Well, we did. We saw the cabin. There's a caved-in tunnel and a bunch of other stuff. Well, I think it's only about a mile hike, so why not? So that's stop 1 on the trail. That was the trail register, which we already did. And then stop 2 is the house. Okay, here's stop number 3. According to what I read online, they're not really sure what this was. I guess it's this caved in. Well, you can kind of see there's like a caved in area back there. Actually, you probably can't even see. But there is. There's kind of a caved-in depression, and they were speculating that it might have been a mine at it, or it might have just been like a bunker where they kept their dynamite. They don't really know. And then number 4 up here, there's supposedly some old foundation or something that you can see here. Oh yeah, just barely. This was supposed to be the site of another building, which again, they don't know exactly what it was, but they theorized, or from talking to people that had been up here when it was operating, some said it was a big 2-story lodge, like for miners' accommodations, like a bunkhouse. And then another theory was that it was a blacksmith shop, because, you know, way up here, Brig apparently had pretty good blacksmithing tools, because you have to, well, you got to make all your own stuff. It's not like you could just run to Home Depot to get tools. Man, hiking up here at elevation is really winding me. Or maybe it's just because I'm blabbering so much. Okay, well, this was supposedly a mine at it, and you can actually see it's still open. Oh my god, you could actually probably go in there if you wanted to. Although, in the guide that I'm reading online, they definitely don't recommend going in there because, you know, toxic gases can build up. And oh gosh, I'm just wearing flip-flops. I'm really not dressed to be going spelunking or going into a mine. So I'll just leave that one for another day. Oh, look, you can see the little narrow gauge rail tracks going through here. That's interesting. I guess they did have ore carts, and that stands to reason. Although I was just reading in the thing I'm reading about online that has the information about this, they were saying that some of the entrances to these adits were too narrow for even a mule to get in. Because I guess a lot of miners back in the day used to use mules to pull the ore carts along the rails. But these entrances to these adits were so narrow that a mule couldn't even fit in. So apparently that meant that the men had to push these ore carts along these railings. And man, an ore cart that's fully loaded full of ore is like 600 pounds or something. I mean, and then they were saying that the average miner only made like $2 to $4 a day back then. So gosh, can you imagine? Talk about working hard for your money. But yeah, whether they were pushed by hand or drugged by mules, the ore carts would have gone all the way to the edge here. And I guess there was some, I don't know, somehow they were transported down the mountain to a place called Deer Creek, where apparently there were some arrestras. If you know what an arrestra is, it was a really old-timey technology developed by the Spaniards. It was kind of like a circular stone depression, and they would dump the ore, you know, the ore that had the rocks that had the gold flecks in it. And then they would, oh gosh, it's kind of complicated to describe, but they had a mule go around in a circle, dragging a big rock that would crush up the ore slowly and painfully until they got the sweet, sweet gold out of it. I mean, can you imagine any life worse than that of a mule chained to an arrastra? I certainly can't. Well, maybe being an ox back in the pioneer days that had to drag a wagon west and then be shot and killed and eaten when the pioneers ran out of food. That would have been a pretty bad life too. Matter of fact, I feel like all lives back then were pretty rough, unless you happen to be the wealthy wife or mistress of some Gilded Age baron. Life was pretty tough for everyone and everything. Oh, trail crossing. Whoop. Oh my goodness, look at this trail. This is just gorgeous up here. I mean, rough life or no, at least they lived in a beautiful area. Although, well, I guess according to what we read, Pansy really didn't stick around up here too much. She was down at the farm while Brig and the working men, gosh, think about what it was like up here. I mean, husband goes away all week to work up in the mountains with his crew of manly men. I mean, I can think of a lot of crazy shenanigans that might have happened up here. Although these were good, God-fearing Mormon folk, I'm sure none of what I'm imagining or what you might be imagining ever happened. Matter of fact, I don't ever even remember reading about any soiled doves. You know, what they call the prostitutes that used to work these old mine camps back in the Old West days. They called them soiled doves because their reputations were soiled by working as prostitutes, when meanwhile they were just fulfilling a need that men out here had. Well, I don't recall ever having read about any of them there kind of gals in Utah mining camps. I think in Utah they kept things pretty clean. Oh, look how cute this is. This is number 7 on the trail. And look, it's part of an old cabin. Look how cute this old door is. A little rope hanging over it. I mean, there's not much left to this old cabin. Just a little tiny bit of the front there. Some of the walls. And look at this. They have this little bench here, and the guide that I'm reading online, they recommend that, you know, if you come here in the summertime and you have a minute, just sit on this bench and enjoy the warm sun filtering through the aspen Well, here, let me turn the camera around so you can experience this with me because it's actually really nice. You know, I'll do this for those of you who don't have the means to come up here yourselves. Okay, so we're sitting on a bench. The sun is filtering through these aspen trees, warming our skin. I can hear the rumble of an approaching ATV, so I better make this quick. But aside from the rumble of the approaching ATV, I hear like cicadas or crickets or something. There's little butterflies fluttering around. All these wildflowers smell amazing. It really is a great day to be alive. Okay, well, we have one more stop on this tour, and I'm gonna do it before these people catch up with me and start listening in, because then I'll be embarrassed that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the last stop on the trail, and to be honest, it's really not that exciting. It's supposedly the trash heap. They just threw all their trash down the hill here. Anyway, that was it. That was all 8 stops on the old Silver King mine trail. And even though there wasn't really that much mining stuff left over, I still thought it was really interesting. It was definitely worth a stop, if only for the chance to go for a little walk through this beautiful forest. Oh, I'm so lucky I get to travel around through this forest for another 3 weeks. I'm not going home till more than 3 weeks. I'm not going home till August 15th. Today's July 20th. Almost a month. I have almost a month to explore this beautiful, awesome country. And I can't wait to see what surprises it holds for me.